Rich Steeves, IT Expo Las Vegas 2013. Joining me now is Shashi Kiran, Senior Director, Market Management at Cisco. Shashi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rich. Glad to be here.
So, software-defined networking is a big topic. We're talking a lot about it. What's the Cisco perspective on SDN?
It's actually a pretty hot trend in the industry right now, and Cisco is more than knee-deep into it. We have been, talking to a number of customers on this, gathering data points on what problems it solves, and what we've recognized is that, across the breadth of Cisco's customer base, there are a number of use cases which are pertinent to each deployment model. So what is pertinent in the data center may be different from what a service provider wants, or what a cloud provider wants, or what a traditional enterprise wants. So we've taken a use case-led approach here, and the more important thing that's bubbled up is the concept of open networking. Customers want their networks to be much more open, infrastructure to be much more agile, and much more application-aware, application-centric. So that's the problem that we're trying to solve from Cisco perspective, bringing in operational simplicity, making it much more open, programmable, and application-aware. And over the last 18 to 24 months, there has been several innovations across the entire portfolio, again in a use case-centric manner with number of products coming in. So SDN is a key component of this offering, but we're looking at open networking and application centricity as the broader trend here.
Great, so we have had our SDN Pre Conference here at IT Expo. You were at that. Can you tell us a little bit about what was discussed? What were some of the trends? What were some of the things that you heard there?
Yeah, I think based on some of the questions we got from the audience, there's an increasing amount of pragmatism that's creeping in. About a year and a half ago, everybody was trying to understand and define SDN. Now, most people have moved away from just trying to define SDN and saying, okay, what problem is this going to solve for me? And they're trying to relate it to their existing network investment, and how do you get to point B from point A, and making it much more relevant and customized for them. So a lot of those questions were much more realistic, and a majority of them really focused on automation, how do you bring in simplicity, what do you mean by opening the network up, and some of them were getting increasingly granular, which means people are trying to get themselves educated and trying to dispel some of the hype around it. And I think from a Cisco perspective, as I mentioned, there are a number of new products, innovation capabilities that we're bringing across the portfolio. So there were some questions and on each of these and their availability, and so this is again available in a phased way across the entire portfolio. So we talked a little bit about that as well.
It sounds like we moved past the point where we're talking about what it is and talking about what we're actually doing.
Correct. I think that's when you're getting off the hype cycle. We probably aren't there entirely. At least the United States, there's a lot more awareness compared to the rest of the world. But increasingly, case studies, use cases, trying to see what problems does it exactly solve, whether it's in a quantitative or a qualitative manner, and then looking back in history and trying to see if these were things that cropped up earlier, are all the things that customers at large are doing. And I think we have, because of the installed base that we have, nobody else in the industry perhaps has this kind of diverse and broad installed base, going from a small branch office router to the core of the service provider or cloud. We're probably in a better position to dissect some of the requirements there and put out much more appropriate solutions. So this conference, there were quite a few questions that came in from an enterprise as well as a service provider perspective. Some conferences are mostly predicated on data centers only, which is where they think the problem lies. But this is an across the board phenomenon. We're trying to tailor the solutions accordingly.
Absolutely, and it sounds like Cisco is really doing a lot in this area.
That's right. So we've taken a broad approach called open network environment. This is sort of our approach to SDN, but also recognizing that it's more about open networking, unlocking the value that is within the networks, bringing in the best of hardware and software, bringing tighter integration between physical and virtual, bringing in analogous behavior between the network and compute. So these are all the different aspects that Cisco has been up to under the open network environment. And again, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but we also made an investment in CMA Networks, which is today an 85% owned subsidiary of Cisco. And the founders have sort of the track record of creating every major inflection point in the networking industry over the last couple of decades. And so there, there's the construct of application-centric infrastructure. So this really looks at eliminating the black hole that we traditionally see between the network and applications, where on one hand you have applications assuming maybe infinite bandwidth from network perspective, and the network doesn't care which application runs on it. So the infrastructure now here, and this goes beyond the network to compute and storage, security elements over time as well, to say, okay, what can we do to bust silos, remove some of the black holes that are out there, and make that infrastructure designed from ground up to be application-centric. So there's such a lot of excitement out there as you start to, sift these different asks and say, okay, what is it that they're looking for, and how do we take them to the next level? And it's very important to go and connect the dots from point A to point B. There's a lot of promise from different vendors out there. Some startups are coming out with fragmented offerings. Some vendors in the virtualization or hypervisor domain are just looking at it purely from a virtualization construct. So it's very important to integrate and maybe take a look at it much more holistically. And so I think that's where the bulk of our focus is right now.
As you said, it's an exciting area. It sounds like Cisco's deeply involved in it. If we want to know more about what Cisco's doing, where can we go online?
Today, I think the best resource would be to go on a website which talks about this open network environment. You can go to cisco.com/go/1 ONE, and the ONE stands for the open network environment. Moving forward, as we unveil more information about application-centric infrastructure, you will see a lot more around that as well. And again, because of the breadth of the portfolio, you can find information pretty much anywhere on Cisco's site. But I think these sites are perhaps more optimized for information on open networking and SDN at this point.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Rich.